Welcome to today's video. Today I want to kill two birds with one stone, and that is because I will solve the challenge 28 of Just KNIME, which is about pulling crypto data from an API and visualizing it in a data app. And at the same time I want to share some of the up and coming features that will come with KNIME version 5.4 once it's released, hopefully sometime in December. I recently had the opportunity to participate in the community hacking days to check out the preview version of 5.4, and I found some useful features that will come in handy in solving the challenge 28. So the features that I have on offer today are the embedded node configuration dialogues, an enhanced view of JSON and XML type of data, and I will also be using the reverse connection feature as well as Apache eCharts to use KAI to generate a tree map for the crypto data. With that said, let's get straight into it. Okay, let's look into challenge 28 out of 30 of Just KNIME Season 3. This week's challenge is about visualizing data after pulling it from an API. And it's an API about crypto market values. So if I click this API link, we get what looks like a lot of gibberish, but it's JSON. So JSON is a format that's used in the web a lot. And you can see that in between these curly braces are keys and values. So for example, the key ID of this object has a value Bitcoin and it's currently ranked 1 and so on and so forth. And we will pull this with KNIME, and I'm using the preview version of 5.4 that will be released hopefully sometime in December. And I think it has some nice features that are worthwhile showcasing by doing that. But let's maybe start with everything really from scratch. So the challenge is to get out of this data the name of the crypto, the column market cap US dollars, and the change percentage 24 hours. And with that data, we then need to sort out which are the top 10 gainers and losers in the current crypto market. And the goal is to visualize them with a tree map. And the size of each crypto in the tree map should be scaled off the market cap. And its color should be determined by whether or not the percentage change is positive, so that would be green, or negative, that should be red. Then there are some hints, so we are going to use generic eCharts for this, which is really good. And the other one is negative values, we just turn into absolute values. Okay, so let's maybe check out what a tree map is. So Apache eCharts has this collection of examples, and on the left hand side there is tree map. And I guess that our tree map will likely look something like this in the end, yeah, where we have squares and the size of the squares depends on the market cap, and we will have 10 squares or rectangles in total for the top 10 movers or the top 10 losers. And then we'll see if we can get the green shading to also indicate how much they've gained or lost. Okay, so let's then navigate to KNIME. And to start with, I just go in my local space to my folder and create a new one for challenge 28. And inside that, workflow JKI, season 3, challenge 8, and then my forum username. That's how I like to do that. And before I really do anything else, I go to info, go to edit, go back to the website, and here is that tag. So taking this tag, putting it down here in the text section, clicking it and then saving. That will allow the KNIME team to pick up that I've submitted a challenge. There's a leaderboard that shows the number of challenges per user that were solved in time. And so that I don't forget, that's one of the first things that I typically do to start with. Then before I get started, I want to go to Preferences, and in Modern UI, so this is only in version 5.4 preview, I now want to check out what the node configuration dialog looks like if it's embedded. So typically if you configure a node, it will show up in its own window, and there's now an option to have this embedded. So I really want to see what that looks like. So now let's go back to the node repository and let's think about what we need to get data from that API. So given that it's an API, it's likely going to be a GET request. And of course, there's a node for that. And now I'll just go back to the link here, copy that URL, and just use that here. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we're getting one row, and you can already see that we're getting the data that we saw in the browser. And one of the new features that I really like is that this JSON column now is formatted. Yeah, so let's maybe also open that up, make it big. So here we can already see quite a nice structure. Yes, so there's one JSON object nested between these curly braces for each crypto asset, and it just keeps going. And what's also new is, I think, this button here. So let's click that. Okay, I thought that there should be a pop-up. Maybe it's because I have it on. Okay. So if I have it in preview here, I can pop this out, and here I can even like copy paste and edit and scroll through further. So that's actually really, really nice. Awesome. I like that. So that's also new. That wasn't there until now. So given that we work with JSON, we will need a JSON path node. So this node allows us to extract certain keys. So let's just go back here from the information. And if we inspect this, so we have this data object, and there's a list in these square braces, and inside this list are individual objects. And from these objects, we need the value behind ID. We need the value behind this market cap US dollars and change percentage. And we want each asset to have its own row. And that's what we can do with this JSON path node. So let's navigate in there. So the nice thing about KNIME and nodes like JSON path is that you don't have to worry too much about learning a syntax, because it's really point and click. So in this node, let's say I now click on this bit count value, and I could now just get a single query, and it adds it for me, and it's called already output column name is ID, and this is a query. So let's just do that for the market cap in US dollars, and let's do that for the change percentage at single query. Okay. So if I execute this now, I only get this for Bitcoin. And the reason why I only get it for Bitcoin is because I clicked add single query and not add collection query. And that resulted in this part here being the 0. So that points to the first item of the list. So let's now remove all of these and let's have another go. So click on the value and this time add collection query. So the structure is the same, but in this middle square braces, it's an asterisk, which means grab this ID from any object that is part of this JSON. So we'll just keep doing that for everything else. And maybe let's change the name here to asset. And let's execute it again. So now we are getting lists of this, but the lists have, as you can see, Bitcoin, then Ethereum, and so on and so forth. And what we can do is we can ungroup these columns. So ungroup pretty much turns a list, any item in a list, into rows. And there we have it. Now we have one row for every asset, and we have these two additional columns that we wanted. So looking at that, now we have a lot of columns that we don't need, like the status column, the content type, the body column. So we will remove them. And the other thing that we are going to do is to turn these columns into numerical columns, so likely double type. In order to do that, I will use one of the most useful yet not so well-known nodes, which is the table manipulator node. And this table manipulator node allows us, by simply unchecking the columns that we don't want to see, to get rid of them. And it also allows us to rename. So let's call maybe this market cap and this change 24H. And also it allows us to change the type. So all in one, and everything with just dragging and dropping. So there we go. This is a table that we now want to use in our eCharts. And now I just realized I actually haven't played around with this feature yet. Let's actually see. It looks like we actually don't have any node. Okay, I think the new expressions node should do. Let's go expression. Right, okay, I mean expressions I think is not the best example. Let's maybe take a row filter or something like that, just to take a look at that. Okay, so this is actually quite good. So typically you would have this dialog available by clicking on this little, like on this type of icon here. But for the new nodes, it's here. And I can then expand it. So this is actually the first time that I'm looking at this. So that's, I mean, for the expressions node, this doesn't seem to be too useful. There's no way around moving this up. But for like a row filter, I can see myself, especially if I'm in widescreen mode, I have enough space. Yeah, so that could be a very useful feature. Okay, but let's go back to the task at hand. So we still need to identify the top 10 movers and losers. So that is really more of a sorting task. And what I like for this task is the top K row filter. So the top K row filter allows us to filter and sort at the same time. So we want to sort by the change 24 hours, and we want to keep the top 10 rows. And let's, under advanced settings, we want to sort the output. So if we do that now, this will be our losers. And now if we just copy this, this is also a new feature. So winners. Until version 5.3, you always had to connect from the output port to an input port like this. With 5.4, you can do this in reverse, which I think is very useful. And you can also like find another node. Yeah, so I think very useful feature. Anyway, so we were at the winners. So all we need to do is change this to descending order. And now we have the top 10 movers based on the 24-hour scale. So now all that's left to do is to grab the eCharts node and to get started with our tree map. Also, one thing that we need to do here first is, and let's use the expressions node for that. I want to replace the 24-hour one, and I'll do this with KAI. I'm just being lazy here, but also just checking that this works, so that looks good. Okay, so now we've inverted that. Apply and execute. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit. I only added constant value columns to identify which data set is showing the losers and which one the winners based on the change in the last 24 hours. And I've then concatenated them, and we will progress from here. So now we have everything in one. And now we add our eCharts node again and prompt it one more time. So let's try something like this. I will copy this just in case and let's send it off. That looks much better. Okay, from a visualization perspective, maybe we can have borders in white or something. So let's ask KAI for that. Yep, that's much better. I like that. Maybe we can add tooltips. So let's just try this. Let's see how that goes. Yep, very good. I like that. All right, so then time to just save it. And I will go to my Explorer, click Connect to Hub. And now what's left to do is upload to the community hub. I have on my public space a folder. And now it's uploading. And the last thing that I typically do is I go to my KNIME hub profile, find my workflow that I just uploaded. Copy the link. And then again, 1 second, on the forum. Under Just KNIME, there's a challenge thread. And I'll just post a link here. And there you have it. Challenge solved and some of the new cool features of 5.4 introduced. See you next time.